This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, a 1950s fire engine is lovingly restored and added to the Toitū Otago Settlers Museum. Motocross rider Courtney Duncan claims her third consecutive world title. And a Dunedin welding firm is seeing their giant steel doors could travel. Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi o te ahi nei. Kia ora, I'm Simon Anderson. A shiny red fire engine dating back to the 1950s is the latest addition to the transport wing of Dunedin's Toitū Otago Settlers Museum. The appliance, which saw many years of service in Balclutha, has been lovingly restored by a team of local volunteers.
This Dennis F8 fire engine, dating back to 1955, which saw service in Invercargill and Balclutha, is now on display at Dunedin's Toitū Museum. The appliance has been beautifully renovated by the Dunedin Fire Brigade Restoration Society, and Society President Gerald Newbury says the six-cylinder Rolls-Royce engine ran perfectly when they drove it up from Balclutha to Dunedin a few years ago.
It ticks over like a Swiss watch. Yeah, no, beautiful engine.
The pump on the back outputs 500 gallons per minute with outlets for two separate hoses. While this truck never saw service in Dunedin, it's very similar to ones that did, with their small size valued on narrow streets.
They were very common in England because of their size. They're very manoeuvrable in city areas like Even, and they were ideal for in South Dunedin or up in Roslyn, the smaller trucks.
Accompanying the display is a film of the devastating Arthur Barnett's fire of 1959, which similar engines would have attended. The truck is just one of many the Society has renovated in the hope of one day having them all on display in a museum somewhere. In the meantime, this one's on loan to the Toitū Museum, which suits the Society well.
And it's a good example, and it's good advertising for the Restoration Society. To be here is a really big gain for us, yes.
The truck is set to be on display at Toitū for the next 5 years. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Dunedin rider Courtney Duncan is hoping for a golden ticket home to go with her third gold plate collected over the weekend. The 25-year-old won her third consecutive Women's Motocross World Championship title in Trentino, Italy. Duncan entered her final races still slightly bruised and battered after crashing last weekend. She finished third in her opening race of the day, but those points were enough to claim her title, prompting some early celebrations. Here, Duncan revving back
to come
up
away
to
with,
win
like
the
you say,
last
the third
race
consecutive title, it means so much. The years that I struggled back in the earlier days, and to think that we're here now was amazing feeling.
There's still one last race Duncan hopes to win. The world champion rider wants to secure a spot in managed isolation and quarantine so she can celebrate with her family for Christmas. More than 300 artworks were on display at this year's Labour Weekend art show in Wanaka. Some of the artists were also on hand, giving demonstrations and explaining their creative techniques to the public.
Wanaka's annual Labour Weekend art exhibition drew hundreds of visitors to the Lake Wanaka Centre, with 6 local artists available to discuss their work with the public. Painters Kate Boswell and Julia Sternkopf have both arrived in the area recently and draw inspiration from the central Otago landscapes.
Moving to New Zealand has inspired me to become an artist. I love the mountains around here and I want to paint them for the rest of my life if I can.
We moved here about 1.5 years ago and I've been painting my landscapes since then.
On the other hand, pastel artist Kim Beaton, who was featured in an episode of the TV series Put Some Colour in Your Life, finds inspiration from scenery and events further afield.
I've been doing artworks recently of seaside water images and harking back to my Australian heritage.
Meanwhile, collage artists Robin Brisker and Jenny Hill both use a unique assortment of items and media to tap into their creativity.
There's jars of buttons, old books, watercolours on top. There's a collage using all the old music things from old catalogue, old wallpaper, old stamps, old buttons.
This is encaustic medium, so it's beeswax and diamond resin. Everything's heated up. I'm just putting some clear layers over my papers.
So I use this as one of my mediums to layer my photos and papers into the wax.
The 6 artists are all in different stages in their career, with jeweller Amy Bixby busy selling commissioned pieces, while Kate Costello is just starting out.
I specialise in portraiture. All of my pictures are based off like people that I know. Like this is my little sister, and a wee pig toy that she used to cart around with her for years and years when we were little.
Everything I make is handmade by myself from start to finish, and work in a variety of metals and rare and unique kind of gemstones, semi-precious.
This year's show featured more than 300 entries, up about 30% on previous years. In Wanaka, the South today.
Friends are paying tribute to 2 mothers who were killed in a horror vehicle crash near Waihola over the long weekend. The head-on crash happened on Saturday morning just south of Waihola. 22-year-old Charlene Hong Hu Phuong and Faye Leslie Leota were killed in the accident. 2 others were flown by rescue helicopter to Dunedin Hospital in a critical condition, while a 3rd person with serious injuries was transported by ambulance. A Give a Little page has been set up for the victims. Charlene was described as a loving wife, mother, sister and daughter. Friends say there are now 2 fewer beautiful shining lights in this world. A teenager is due to appear in Dunedin Youth Court tomorrow on dangerous driving charges. A pair of giant doors created by a Dunedin welding firm are being installed this week in a Coromandel gold mine. The impressive steel doors reduce the amount of power used by mining operations, and the local company is now looking at its export potential.
They're not your typically sized doors. Measuring 5 metres high and 4 metres wide, these impressive bright orange steel doors are made in Dunedin by local company Sightweld NZ. The firm currently employs about 40 staff, a far cry from a decade ago when owner Adrian Olsen was working solo.
I was just a sole trader and working out of a ute with a mobile welder. And then we sort of grew from there. I got a break up at Macrae's just as a contractor, repairing drill rigs, diggers and bulldozers and graders, and we just had a can-do attitude and just we said yes to everything.
This pair of doors are destined for the Waihi gold mine, about 1 kilometre underground in the Coromandel. The giant structures are designed to be fully open to allow vehicles through, but when shut there's an airlock chamber to allow workers to operate.
So these give the ability to regulate airflow within different parts of the mine. If you just had a complete open atmosphere down there, there's tunnels dart off left, right and centre. That's a huge amount of power that you'd need to power the fans up to be able to supply air.
Locking off certain areas when the doors aren't in use helps reduce power consumption in the underground mining industry.
We're focusing on that sustainability within mining, because some people may frown upon mining, but if we can do our part to make it more sustainable and environmentally friendly, then we're helping out.
It's believed Sightweld is the first Kiwi company to build these structures, with Olsen now exploring interest from overseas to be able to export the giant doors. In Dunedin, the South today.
Still to come on the South today, the Prime Minister issues new COVID mandates and dozens of brave swimmers cool Wanaka waters. Ka kite a konei.
All new episodes of Put Some Colour in Your Life are now screening on Channel 39. Take a look at Australian artists and the techniques they use in their studio. Put some colour in your life. Tuesdays, 7:30.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
No mai nō, welcome back. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has announced mandatory vaccinations for staff at any business where vaccine passports will be required. Businesses include hospitality, hairdressers and gyms. The government has already mandated for workers in healthcare and education to be vaccinated. Ardern says if regions don't make it to 90% vaccination levels, the government might use Alert Level 3 settings to restrict the spread of COVID-19. The government is introducing a new minimum 4-week termination process for any employee who loses their job due to refusing a vaccination. With summer just around the corner, intrepid swimmers kicked off their season in Lake Wanaka yesterday in waters that weren't exactly tropical. The cooler waters didn't deter competitors though, with around 80 members of the Wanaka Lake Swimmers Club celebrating the beginning of the summer swimming season. And for organisers, it was safety first.
We're really excited to have you here today. I'll just quickly make sure that anyone going in the water, please make sure you put your name down on our list. We're just checking that so that we make sure we get everybody back out of the water.
While most attending the event wore wetsuits, some who've been swimming in the lake over winter were happy in just a swimsuit. Wanaka's swim lane at Roy's Bay is marked out with a buoy line restricting boats to a 5-knot speed limit. 4 years ago, Alan Brady had a shot at planting one of the first vineyards in central Otago. Little did he know that his few rows of grapes would kickstart a huge wine-growing industry that dominates much of the landscape today.
In the early 1980s, Alan Brady planted a number of different varieties of grapes on 6.5 hectares of land he'd bought at Gibbston near Queenstown, in the hope the central Otago climate might suit winemaking.
82, I planted from the top right down to the, as far as you can see down there, in Otago, which was what everybody was growing in New Zealand at the time. I didn't have a tractor. I hired a young guy, a university student at Christmas, to hand hoe. And he started up there, and it was pre-Christmas, and by Christmas he got down there. By that time, the weeds, the fat hen mainly weeds, were waist high at the top. And he never came back after Christmas.
It was mostly by luck that he stumbled on the grape variety of Pinot Noir, which eventually became a success. Chief winemaker Christopher Keys acknowledges it must have taken a lot of effort to coax the early plantings into producing grapes.
Alan probably knew them all by name. You know, like they're the kind of individual characters of their own right, and that's the thing. I mean, all our vineyards have different characters, and we love them in different ways, but this one just has a very deep tap root into this company's heart and soul.
Now 85, Brady says he didn't really imagine winemaking vineyards taking over central Otago.
I wasn't thinking that far ahead. It was one day at a time. We were learning. I mean, I planted some grapes knowing nothing about how grapes grew, really, apart from the little bit I'd read. So you learn by watching and listening to nature and learning from season to season. And every season we learn something. You know, 40 years on, I'm still learning.
And the name Gibbston is now associated with an annual summer music festival.
When I was tending these vines out here in the early 80s, I was listening to music that today is being played down the valley by those same bands at the Gibbston concert. Now that's one amazing thing for me, to go to the Gibbston concert and listen to bands that I was from the 80s and 90s that I was listening to when I was tending vines here. I never would have believed that. And it's the same kind of feeling that I have about how far we've come.
Near Queenstown, the South Today.
And we'll bring you more on the development of the Gibbston Valley wine industry in tomorrow night's bulletin. After the break, on the South Today, there's a pirate canoe off Dunedin shores, and the Highlanders and Crusaders are entering new territory somewhere north of Dunedin. Hea koko ake nei.
All new episodes of Put Some Colour in Your Life are now screening on Channel 39. Take a look at Australian artists and the techniques they use in their studio. Put Some Colour in Your Life. Tuesdays, 7:30.
MTF Finance can help you turn the key on your next vehicle with a loan made just for you. TCs and lending criteria apply.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Hey, what have you got? Okay. Chicks World, party time, excellent. Love it. Chicks World. Chicks World. Right.
Hoki mai anō. A vessel more familiar to the seven seas flaunted its sail at this year's White Island race. The pirate canoe was one of many to make its way around White Island in the gruelling event for Dunedin's surf lifeguards.
Underwater and under pressure, swimmers, surfers and even a few pirates descended on St Clair Beach over Labour weekend for the annual White Island race. This was the 52nd year of the popular event, and while COVID-19 threatened to impact the event, organisers have managed to keep it going.
It's never been cancelled, so we're stoked today that we could get it done, obviously under the COVID climate, 100 limit of people at events, so Yeah, really awesome to get it done. I mean, wide range of events have happened, some stormy days, some nice days like today, so yeah, I think everyone's pretty happy they're a part of it.
It's one of the toughest events on the local surf life-saving calendar, with more than 70 people joining in this year's event. Lucy Matahaidi was the fastest female competitor, taking just over 29 minutes to complete the course. Will Jamieson was only slightly quicker to win the men's section. Burrow says the race is a good warm-up for athletes ahead of the summer season.
Yeah, I mean, they want to be involved in the surf community, and this is the way to start the season. Our patrols start next weekend and they go through to March. I mean, each club will average around 2,000 volunteer hours throughout the season, you know what I mean? So a lot of mahi goes into keeping our beaches safe. So I guess this symbolises the start of the season.
An almost perfect end to a perfect day. In Dunedin, the south today.
The North Township of Weston, just inland from Oamaru, will stage a major warm-up match for 2 Super Rugby teams early next year. Weston will host the next Farmlands Cup between the Crusaders and the Highlanders. Winger John Nareki recently visited Weston's school to announce the big event, which will be played at Weston's Valley Rugby Club as a warm-up for next year's Super Rugby season. Nareki and his teammates are excited to bring the Super Rugby hit out to rural North Otago for the first time. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South today. A 1950s fire engine has been lovingly restored and added to the transport wing at Toitu Otago Settlers Museum. Motocross rider Courtney Duncan is hoping for a golden ticket home after claiming her 3rd consecutive world title. And a Dunedin welding firm is exploring the export potential of their giant steel doors built for a Coromandel mine. And now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT, we welcome Associate Editor Joe Simpson. Kia ora, Joe.
Hi. The DCC has released a list of 21 buildings likely to be earthquake prone. Buses are to stay with the ORC despite pleas from the DCC to take over. We have an update on the victims of the fatal Waihola crash at the weekend. And girls at Columba College are now free to wear pants to school.
Great.
Thanks
for that, Joe. And time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Looking at the situation, look out for thunderstorms around the region tomorrow afternoon and probably again on Thursday as an unstable northerly airflow carries humid air over the region. Still rather mild near the top of the island though. It's cloudy in Westport while the sun peeks through in Greymouth, both on 17 degrees. And cloudy in the northeast as well, Nelson on 18, Blenheim on 22 degrees. It's mild down the Canterbury coast too, Kaikoura on 17, Christchurch and Ashburton on 18 degrees. All are cloudy with Ashburton possibly welcoming showers. Looking at the southern towns, it's 18 degrees for north with north or northeasterlies everywhere, but while the Catlins should look out for just showers, there are possible thunderstorms in the other towns, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore. And possible thunderstorms too for all towns in the Central Lakes region, northerlies as well for Tiano on 17 degrees, Alexandra and Queenstown on 18 degrees and Wanaka on 19. Looking at the northern towns, inland could have thunderstorms too with light northerlies on 19 degrees, just showers and east to northeasterlies on the coast, Oamaru on 18, Timaru on 19 degrees. In Dunedin, low cloud and mist tonight with an overnight low of 9. Mostly fine tomorrow and Thursday with some low cloud morning and night. A risk of isolated showers and even thunderstorms. Tomorrow sees a high of 18 and a low of 8. Thursday, one better with 19 and 9. And in Invercargill, low cloud and mist tonight with an overnight low of 8 degrees. Changeable weather tomorrow and Thursday though, with afternoon showers and thunderstorms likely, but mostly dry at other times with sunny periods and broken cloud. Mild and humid with light northerly quarter winds, 19 and 8 tomorrow and 20 and 9 on Thursday. This Tuesday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and you can follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Like and subscribe to be notified of that southern news as it happens. Nō reira kia pai te pō, ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.